always asking which tomato is the best. And I'm here to tell you the answer. It is the one you grew yourself. Hi, I'm Suzanne, and I'm here to talk about how to figure which tomato is best for you. One of the first things that you're going to encounter when you're looking at tomato plants to buy are these little tags. So this is going to be a little primer on how to read your tomato tag and how to know what you want out of a tomato. So on these little tags, there's so much information about tomatoes. There is how long it takes from flower to fruit maturity, and there's information about determinate versus indeterminate, and so much more. So I'm just going to kind of go through some of these, and on this one, so this is for tomato Lemon Boy. That's this one over here. So Lemon Boy, it shows that you need full sun, as it is with most tomatoes. The only time you would give tomatoes a little bit less is if it's really, really baking hot and you want to give them a little afternoon protection if it's just been super warm. You want to space them according to how big the plants will get, and so then we go into whether a tomato is determinate or indeterminate. Determinate means that it's going to get to a specific size, the tomatoes will all ripen at once, and then you're going to be making things like tomato sauce or canning, freezing, doing whatever, but your plant will basically ripen all at once. And usually determinate tomatoes are smaller. They're a little bit stockier, a little bit more compact. Indeterminate, they can get quite large, and you really have to kind of have that tomato cage and the whole setup to do that. So the tag will also say something like days to maturity, and that is how long it takes to go from a flower to when you can eat the fruit. And it can be very short, 55, 60 days for something like a cherry tomato or a little pear tomato, up to maybe 90 or 95 for a giant beefsteak like this bad boy over here. Tags are also going to have something called disease resistance, and so just keep in mind that it's disease resistance. It won't prevent diseases, but the tomatoes have been proven to be really good against certain diseases. And you'll see little letters on there like V, F, N for different tomato diseases. So verticillium wilt or fusarium, things like that you may have dealt with in the past. Maybe you're a little bit familiar with it, or you're just looking for something that's going to be a little bit easier to grow. So one other thing that you might see on here is the phrase Lycopersicum hybrid. So Lycopersicum is tomatoes. That's all it is. It's a cultivated tomato. It's what's been brought up from the southern Americas through history. They started as super teeny tiny little not very good tasting things that people ate, but now of course we have the Lycopersicum hybrids. And the last thing that these tags and a lot of the tomatoes that you'll buy, the little notice they have here, and it says non-GMO. I want you to ignore that, because you can't buy GMO tomatoes, you can't buy GMO seeds. It's kind of like a marketing plot. So just don't worry about it. Like, none of the tomatoes that you're going to buy at any nursery that you find are going to be GMO. So next up, we're going to talk about the controversial hybrid versus heirloom. The thing about hybrids, again, as I just mentioned, not GMOs. So hybrids are just a marriage, basically. So you've got one really awesome tomato and another really awesome tomato, and then they pollinate them, they create a tomato, and that's a hybrid. Hybrids are usually better producing, so you're going to get a lot like Champion and stuff like that, where you get tons and tons of tomatoes. They're indeterminate, most of them over a long period of time, really consistent size and shape, super well developed. And then there are heirlooms. So heirlooms are tomatoes that have been around for at least 40 years, but usually like 100, 150 years, seeds that people have brought from other countries and other cultures. They're really fantastic. They're the ones that have a lot of different colors and shapes and things like that. But the thing about heirlooms is that the majority of them do not produce as many fruit as a hybrid. So that's a reason why you might want to grow both of them. And then there's also a category called open pollinated, which you'll see on some tags. Open pollinated is just a future heirloom. They just haven't been around long enough and gained enough steam to be considered an heirloom. That's just fine. One of the reasons why you might grow or not grow a hybrid or an heirloom. So hybrids are delicious, they produce a ton of fruit, and they're wonderful, very, very stable plants, but their seed is not stable. So if you like the tomato, you can't save the seeds and plant them later because it won't be the same fruit. But with an heirloom, you can. And that's kind of a fun thing about heirlooms, is that you can save the seed, pass them on, pass them to your neighbors and friends and to other people in other countries and cultures. So that's how that gets started. Okay, so here we are back at that question. Which tomato should I grow? Okay, so when people come to us here at the store, what I always ask first is, what kind of tomato do you like to eat? What size do you want? Do you want a cherry tomato? Do you want like a breakfast-sized tomato? These, kind of nice slicers here. Do you want a Roma tomato, which are you going to make sauce? Are you going to freeze it, can it, whatever? Romas, again, usually a determinate plant, so they're going to ripen all at once, so you can cook on one day. You can grow your beefsteaks, your big heirloom beefsteaks. Then the next question, which is very important, is what color tomato do you like? Because some people cannot even imagine eating a tomato that isn't red. Some people, they don't care, they're interested. Ooh, look at this cool green one. I mean, it's really neat. So that's really important. You want to know where do you live? A tomato like this big giant heirloom that I'm going to take out. Look at how big it is. This tomato probably took at least 90 days to ripen. So do you have that kind of time? Do you? Or do you want to, have one in 45, 50 days for a smaller cherry tomato? That's really important. That's why I always say grow a ton of them. Like, get cherries, breakfast, beefsteaks. Then you don't have to be just staring at your plants all day long, just looking, wishing, hoping. The colors, the black, the green, the orange, there's so many beautiful ones. There are blue tomatoes. I couldn't find those today, but blue tomatoes are so fun because they're full of lycopene, which is an antioxidant, just like in blueberries. So, there's so many ways you can enjoy tomatoes, and it's which one you want. So think, how much space do I have? Do I have space for an indeterminate heirloom that's going to grow probably 6 to 8 feet tall? Or do I want something smaller? There are a lot of growers right now specializing in dwarf plants that have big fruit. So that's a whole other category and really, really fun to think about for a smaller garden, like a patio garden. You can still have big tomatoes on a dwarf plant. So lastly, I just want to talk quickly about tomatoes, planting, and the different kinds of plants. There are two basic leaf varieties. There's this potato leaf variety, and there are the standard rugosa leafed. When you plant a tomato, even though this one might look a little bit kind of, maybe it's not perfect, but you're gonna take off the leaves at the bottom and you're gonna plant it up like this. Just dig it down about 4 inches, and then it's gonna grow roots from the stem, and the plant will get really strong. Tomatoes have a really big root system, so don't try and put them in a teeny tiny little pot. They need some space for their roots to really spread out and form stability for this big plant that's going to be coming ahead. That's about it. Of course, you're going to fertilize it. You're going to water it probably 2, maybe 3 times a week, but try not to overwater it. It's better to water it slowly, deeply, and thoroughly than often. A lot of tomato diseases come when you get water on the leaves, so just water at the base of it. And that's about it. I hope you learned a lot about tomatoes and how to make a choice and how to read the different labels, because it can be a little bit daunting when you're first looking, but of course if you come to Rogers Gardens, we are more than happy to help you. You can go to our website, rogersgardens.com, for all of your shopping and household needs. We have our Facebook, our Instagram, and our Pinterest, and of course YouTube, where you can subscribe and see all of our super informative videos.